everyone. I'm Alicia Greenberg with the Advertising Club of New York. On behalf of the club, our president, Gina Grillo, and our partner member company, Yieldmo, thanks for joining us in the virtual clubhouse today. With over 6,000 members nationally, even internationally today, we are continuing to offer hybrid programming for the foreseeable future, so you can join in no matter where you are. In our Innovate New York series, we provide an opportunity for communications professionals to learn about the technologies impacting our business today from those who are leading the charge. And today, we'll focus on the power of machine learning and AI to elevate the consumer experience. And I know we can all use information on this right now. We're thrilled to have strategic media and marketing expert, the Chief Commercialization Strategy Officer from Yieldmo, Lisa Bradner. She's going to be moderating the conversation, featuring this incredible roster of thought leaders in our midst from Bayer, Walt Disney Company, and Verizon. I am sorry to say, though, Taryn Lance from Walmart told me this morning she is under the weather at the doctor as we speak, and she apologizes that she can't be here today. Hopefully we'll hear from her again soon. Before we get started, I want to encourage those of you who are not members, I can't imagine why, to please join us. We provide resources that educate, celebrate, and empower our marketing community. And you can just do that by going onto our website, theadvertisingclub.org, or please write to me, Alicia, at theadvertisingclub.org. I'd love to talk to you. Just also make sure on your radar you have our next iteration of this event, Innovate New York Part 2 will be coming on May 11th, more to come on that. And we will have our Advertising People of the Year event coming in June, so be on the lookout. So to sign up for these programs, to find out more about other club programs, just go to theadvertisingclub.org. And feel free to socialize any content from today's conversation and tag us at AdClubNY. So we're going to show you a quick video on the power of what Yieldmo can offer, and then join me in welcoming Lisa Bradner. Over to you all.
What if your ad creative could shapeshift in real time depending on the traffic? Yieldmo's dynamic format optimization decides in real time which format and creative elements are best to show to specific pockets of traffic. The system builds on frictionless formats, which are DSP hosted and provide many ways to visually present the same set of assets. DFO happens after the impression is won, so it doesn't affect price or scale. It simply makes campaigns perform better with no additional work. For the creative savvy advertiser, frictionless formats support optional customizations, which are handled by Yieldmo and require no workflow change for the advertiser. Initial tests increased CTR by 30 to 50%. Dynamic format optimization presents the right format at the right time to improve performance with no additional work. To learn more, go to yieldmo.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, depending on what time slot you are in. Thank you for being with us today. I'm Lisa Bradner with Yieldmo. Just to sort of start out, why do we start with that video? Well, because I think when we talk about AI, machine learning, and the world that we're moving into, there's a lot of hype, a little bit of fear. We're going to talk about a lot of that today. But I wanted to just start us off grounding us a little bit that machine learning is a huge part of ad tech today. It's part of what we're doing and where we're going. And that's an example from Yieldmo of how we are using 10 years of data we've collected, advanced machine learning models, and we are able to dynamically anticipate the right format for an ad creative to get the best performance for an advertiser. So I wanted to sort of, just bring it in a little close so that we all understand that there are things you can do today, things that will be happening and changing tomorrow. We're going to get into all of that, but that there are a lot of ways that you can just get started thinking about how can machine learning and AI empower the work you're doing today? How can you find partners who can help you do that? And what does that all look like? So with that, I'm going to ask our panelists to join us. Rafael, Jamie, and Paul, come off camera, come off mute. And welcome, welcome all, and thank you for being with us here today. I'm going to ask you each to just take a little bit of time to introduce yourself, your company and your function, and maybe a sentence or two about what you're responsible for, or how how you view this, or whatever you want to talk about. But just Rafael, let's start with you and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Lisa. As you say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining. So Rafael Rivero from Verizon. I lead the media and the marketing effectiveness team. So we're talking about the topic is so relevant because within my organization, I have accountability not only for the media execution, we also do the measurement and the effectiveness of all the media and advertising. So looking forward to this panel and the conversation.
Awesome. Jamie, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. I am Jamie Power, the SVP of Addressable Sales at Disney. I work across the programmatic team, the performance marketing team, and our self-service platform, and really focused on how do we bring automation to the marketplace to deliver more value for our clients.
And Paul, round us out.
First, thank you for having me and for the opportunity to talk today. I work for Bayer. I oversee our in-house ad buying activation team and all of our partnerships with our key media and tech platforms. I have a team of 20 plus that are hands-on keyboard buying in ad marketplaces today.
It's great. And so I think everybody can tell we got some pretty heavy hitters here, and very grateful to you all for taking an hour out of your day to do this and talk to us. Let's just start right there. Let's start with a little bit of myths and realities. Just as we were getting on the phone, Alicia said, like, I can't read another article about ChatGPT or I'll tear my hair out. But let's kind of, let's talk a little bit about what's real today. What do you think is myth and never going to happen? What maybe is going to happen but hasn't happened yet? How are you viewing this space? And how are you kind of separating hype from reality in your own mind? Jamie, why don't you start us out? I think Jamie may be frozen. So Paul, I'm going to kick it over to you if you don't mind.
Sure. So we focus a lot on the how. I think a lot of people sometimes say it's just a way of doing a thing or a way of buying, but I think we have found there's just enormous value and really having a team be able to execute critical thinking and assess technologies that are constantly coming at us, and being able to really understand what's real, what's meaningful, what's at the root of it. I think if you look and you search LinkedIn, you would find a lot of people that were crypto experts are now AI experts in machine learning. And so when anything is a super shift and a big technology change and behavioral change, it's so important. There is a lot of noise and a lot of stuff that comes with it that is not important and not real. One of the things that we are looking at and know that is that when we've been buying an ad marketplace and platforms, there's been machine learning involved in what we do day to day for a decade. There's been training of models, and that's how you set up campaigns. So our team, and the way that we staffed it, is very technical. People have had a lot of experience working at these platforms with the engineers that built them, with the rule system and how they learn. So a lot of this stuff in terms of machine learning is not necessarily new from an ad buying. We've been buying programmatically or in biddable environments. The AI interface and how you interact with it is maybe different from how you set up campaigns today. But we are really, I think, now focused on assessing, understanding what's real, and then also how to communicate it internally as marketers. You're always going to deal with complexity and noise. And part of our job, not only to consumers and various audiences, but also internally communicating it, making sure people understand and move in the same direction on how to use this technology. The earliest days, we are using some of these tools just to make ourselves more efficient. Some things that we don't have to write or take a lot of our bandwidth. Make sure that we're allowing everyone to expense some of these tools to use them, and so they can create template emails, et cetera, so they can focus more and more of their day, particularly as an in-house team where we don't have as much resources as a huge, large global agency, of just integrating into our day-to-day to help assess and evaluate for Bayer as a company and for the mission that we're trying to deliver.
Awesome. Rafael, you want to chime in on anything there?
Yeah, I mean, it's well said, Paul. I think I would like also to talk about the challenge first that we all live as marketers. As Paul said, limited resources, the amount of data is insane. the ecosystem in terms of the partners, the relationship that we have, at least for Verizon. I assume the same is for you, Paul. It's just quite remarkable. So when you look into that, it could be overwhelming. No, there's so much going on. And that's why it is so important to leverage technology, in this case, machine learning, AI, to help us to be more efficient and take advantage of that for the benefit of the customer. So for me, when I look into it, I always try to think about for a very basic way, which is the context of first speed. The market requires a lot of speed and scale. Those two things are very important. And of course, when you look into using data, which is at the core of AI and machine learning, it gives you the ability to drive precision, anticipation, eliminate waste. All those things are fundamental for us at Verizon to execute at the scale that we have. And then to close, before Jamie can also complement, I think I like to use it a lot for planning purpose, because there's nothing better to have an idea when you build audience to get a sense of where you could invest, what is the likelihood of something happening. And I like to keep my boss straight in terms of what the opportunities could be. So it just gives me also that reassurance about where to plan, how you manage your budget, and also where you could put your bets.
Following up something you said about data and being overwhelming, like how are you leveraging this to figure out what data sets are working? Like, is it in a repository that you're able to take, here's the data segment and here's the outcome, and to figure out based on the KPI how you plan? Like, how far along are you guys in using it?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a journey. So
yes.
If you will ask me, is Rafael satisfied? I would say 100% no. But I would say start for me with signals. And that's what I want to first understand, get a sense of signals, so that way we can be more prescriptive and deliver in terms of how we are using our resources. And when I talk about resources, I'm not talking about people, of course, people, but I'm talking about media dollars, I'm talking about creatives, I'm talking about offers, the whole element. And then, and when we say signals, and because, as I said, it's overwhelming, but there are certain data points that clearly dominate. And that's where we are putting the time and effort for us to really understand how we can adjust our campaigns. How can we be more dynamic in terms of our creative with our creative platforms? And that's the way how we are also allocating across the different media channels.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you also said about speed and scale, because that's how we're thinking about it. And how do you make the data more actionable, and how do we start to decision in more real time? So I think from a Disney perspective, we've definitely leaned into data and technology, in addition to the premium content that we have, right? Because if you're targeting an audience, the content matters, and we're seeing higher results, when you're putting it in a premium environment. I think that the two most kind of exciting ways that we're using it, and this goes back to it's overwhelming, and we want to get out of a world that we're living in case studies. So we started to warehouse the 15 years of streaming data that we have from Hulu, and start to be able to use machine learning to essentially start to plan against outcomes, right? Like, how do we get smart about what happened in the past so we can inform what we should do in the future? And then the other point about scale is we're using it from an audience segmentation standpoint. So whether a client has their own data and they tell us, I want to use this third-party data or their own first-party data, or we want to use a Disney Select segment, it's about using it to train the segmentation to, again, unlock more value by giving you the ability to reach more high-value audiences within our ecosystem.
So
I would just say to
please.
To add to that we have this in terms of speed approach that we look at things almost like Amazon does, in terms of, is this a decision or a change from an insight or something we're finding from the data that's a one-way door or two-way door? If it's something that's not going to impact something else that we're doing, there's not a lot of huge risk. We always want to have room to testing, and you can greenlight that and go. If there's something that might have a huge disruption to the business or a big change to how we do things, we want to make sure that we're understanding what the data is showing us. But there might be something where there's an insight. We don't know why that is. There's this reason why this audience might work, but we're not going to wait to figure out because it's not going to harm anything. And clearly it is working. And there's low risk to move fast, move forward, and you don't need 4 green lights to do that. I also think that the ones that we do, it's key to have good people and partners. So when you look at what Disney's built on their back end, just the database of profiles, information they've built out, where they're not just competing on premium content. I think when you hear them talk today, what is just really exciting is just how they're competing on their back end tech infrastructure and what that can enable and unlock in these discussions. So you can build what you want without any of the sort of hiccups of, well, it doesn't exist yet, because they had that sort of flexible framework for us to then use people and the technology to pursue those big decisions.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is it's for speed of insights, but it's also making sure that at the end of a campaign and you're seeing that something performed, that you're not just stopping at that, yes, this performed, we're taking it a step further to figure out why it worked, or actually the pieces that didn't work, that way you can use the data to optimize in the future.
Great. And you, Paul, you used the word insights twice. And I want to go back to that for a little bit, because I think it's a really interesting thing. I mean, in marketing, there's always been this kind of conversation about, is it an insight or is it just a fact? And now we have put massive amounts of data into machine learning models, and they find relationships and correlations that a human would never see or never get to, could never get through that much data to see it. But they're not necessarily insights the way we traditionally think of insights, right? You're not getting a report from your market research firm that tells you X, Y, and Z. So how do you think about insights in this world? Do you view them differently? Who's in charge of them? And then kind of the follow on to that, what do you do when something's coming out of the data and you're just scratching your head going, I don't get it? Kind of how do you handle that insights process?
I think it's one thing that is not necessarily that new. So back years and years ago in my agency days, we were doing social listening for a retailer, and this word haul came up. And apparently high school kids for back to school, and they went to the mall and they got all this stuff. They were calling it a haul. And they're doing these videos, but we had no idea what that even was. And that informed an entire YouTube campaign and creative and et cetera. So I think it's something that is not necessarily a new problem for many marketers. What we like to at least do, and when you talk about traditional insights versus what is now happening with data and machine learning, is that we think the two should inform each other and have that, bring that context. So this sort of top down, more narrative, more traditional way of creating and communicating insights to the team, leveraging those to understand the data and filter. And sometimes the data will make more sense with that perspective. Similarly, of having the data and things we find out we may not know, but still having that with the sort of more traditional insights and techniques will help you, I think, create a more scalable, relevant, actionable insights in your more top-down sort of way as well.
Great.
Are you setting up like kind of test designs to try to learn different things against the same data point, right? Like I'm activating the same audience, but I want to learn this from that. Like, how do you guys handle that?
So from the first days of forming the team, one of our big core principles that we wanted to be a place where very technical people with great ideas who maybe never got the yes or the green light or go ahead could come here and do that. And so when we set our own goals, we wanted to make sure that we were executing at a level and delivering to the business at a level where we could always have budget to continually test and learn and support our brands that way to move that forward. So we always had this sort of testing budget, and we always look at tests as is our execution of that insight or that test, that audience or whatever we may be doing, not necessarily the channel or whether or not it's an opportunity. So we get those results, and then there are iterations of how do we improve it? Is it something that we did wrong, or is there just not something there? So we have multiple layers and levels of testing, but it's constant. Everyone is involved. Everyone has a chance to pitch it. And we just have great partners in our analytics team that helps us structure that to make sure we have the right data coming out of it. We're not just wasting time and money and bandwidth.
Yeah, let me add up. So Jamie, and similar to Paul, clearly for us, we operate on a real-time marketing matter. So where it's a lot of A/B and test that we're testing different hypotheses. But what I think what I'm learning is this notion of understanding that all the insights that are going to be generated, I might not understand all of them. And that's probably something that we are going to have to get comfortable as marketers, because that's the beauty of the machine learning, is the ability to connect dots, as Lisa was saying, build correlations that probably in a speed and a scale that we just are not going to be able to do it. So I also see it as a way to limit your risk as well, because again, there are risks that we're going to have to take in order to shake the market, look into new opportunities from a marketing perspective. So it's the way how I'm trying to approach this machine learning capability, so that way the team feel comfortable taking risk. What I don't want then, I just don't want to put my team in a position that failure is not actually good on the context of learning. You know what I mean? Right. So and that's if we are going to think that we're going to have all the answers, it's not going to be possible, at least for me.
Well, and I mean, there are a number of interesting points raised here, but, you know, there's a lot of expense inherent in building these teams and building these technologies and building these technical resources. And Rafael, you just sort of referenced it, right? I may or may not be able to explain to my boss why this thing is happening and why it's a good thing. How are you addressing that in your cultures, right? How do you help your bosses, your leaders across, people who aren't in this group, understand the shift that's happening and why they should trust and invest and believe in these things, even if they don't feel like they used to feel?
No, it's a day-to-day. I don't want to say battle, but education, no? And I always call it a sizing exercise, of course. And the way how we approach this, we are always trying to have a level of investment that is dedicated to try new hypotheses and new ideas, and bring those into the scale when they have the maturity and the I guess the risk that we are looking to play within. Mm-hmm. So because it's an adoption, I don't want to say it's an adoption problem, but it's an adoption that we're trying to drive here. So if I throw the baby with, you know, at the big scale like we do, it could create so much disruption that actually could be against what we're trying to accomplish. So what I'm trying to say here is there is some level of education, some sizing that we're doing, and probably that's the similar way how Paul is doing it. And I assume Jamie as well, in the way how you are deploying this, which is, it's kind of like a lab, no? The way how we're going through this.
So you talk about it as R&D budget, or, I mean, you know,
I don't want to talk it. No, for me, it's a test and learn environment. Mm-hmm. The R&D, yeah, you could call it, but I'm always, if I continue to do business as usual, what is the likelihood that I'm going to change my outcomes? I mean, if right. we all agree on that principle. So for me, is I always throwing ideas, hypotheses, and the team, I'm giving the team the flexibility to learn and test and see what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, we focus a lot on like being conversant versus fluent, and an expectation that when it comes to digital or some of these larger things that are just going to be integrated into everything that we do, that everyone has to be at least conversant in it. And so we spend a lot of time on ongoing education, and whether that is from senior executives that just aren't close to the day-to-day hands-on keyboard or a little bit more removed from that work, to make sure that we are educating up and doing ongoing training, informal and formally. We have legal, medical, regulatory. So we want to make sure that all those teams are understanding things proactively, having lunch and learns, seeing with them in person. So it's not just a reactive, oh, here's this new thing, it sounds scary and I don't know anything what that means. They have a base set and we have a cadence, and there's a level of trust where there needs to be fluency and expertise, but we could talk to each other because everyone has that base level being conversant in these topics to start.
Yeah, and I think the role that we're playing with a goal of trying to give our brand and agency partners as much access to data from a planning standpoint, and then on the back end, onto the performance, is working through clean rooms. We're now set up with hundreds of clean rooms across both agencies and client direct, which allows, before you're planning a campaign, you could go and onboard the audience, get insights against the audience that you had no idea. And then on the back end, we are surfacing tons of information specifically on the performance of Disney that can be leveraged again for you guys to kind of make sense of all the data on the after the campaign.
That's it.
Yeah,
So please go ahead, Rafael.
No, Jamie, that's one of our next steps.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk about that, because I've heard you all say partners. This isn't a go it alone strategy. How do you orchestrate all that? Do you have, do you feel like your partners are meeting your needs? Are there holes in the marketplace where you really wish something would come? How do you think about in-house versus outsource and bringing that together? And I heard you say clean rooms, Jamie, which is, okay, our first party data is super important and still super proprietary. So we got to figure out how to manage that. What else are you doing, or how are you thinking about the partners you need or want in this world?
I'll start. For me, I have to say this week, actually, we have a meeting with a lot of partners. And this notion about data, audience, machine learning, technology at the core, they are all addressing that point. So I feel like the industry is on that direction. The partner that will succeed is the one that is going to be able to have the scale and really to understand how technology works and how it's integrated with the different, in this case, with us, with Verizon, no? So that for me will be the differentiation. And when I look at Verizon, for us, it's going to be on the context, not only leveraging our first party data, because that's super important, is our ability to understand how we can adopt the learnings and the tools that our partners are creating. So that way we can differentiate on that, just the knowledge of that relationship and the tools and the way how they're building the audience is going to probably make the difference for anyone who continues on this journey.
Mm-hmm. Paul, anything more about partnership? I can see a thought bubble forming.
I would just say that our approach to partnerships, I think, are as key as anything, and that true sense of the word, that should be two-way. So in all of our partnerships, it's not about zero sum. In all these areas, it's about figuring things out together, building the pie, growing that pie, having a learning plan for both of us. It's not just about, even if we are the customer, our learning plan. There is value in having both sides benefit and growing together. So that approach, I think, has really helped fill those gaps faster, and offering up our very technical team where there's not a lot of user error, and there's the ability to give feedback to product people, to sales people across their organization. All that has been key in sort of this two-way partnership relationship. And we spent a lot of time on the early days vetting the partners that we have today, not just the technology and the offering that day, but the people that we would work with, and how we can build something together, and the approach they wanted to take with us, which is beyond just what are the pricing terms or this or that. It was always a larger discussion.
Yeah, and I'm going to say a buzzword we haven't said yet, which is shocking, but I'm going to say from our stance, we are focused on interoperability, understanding that you guys want to target a unified audience across your entire media buy, and then you want the ability to measure it, right, consistently on the back end. So from an audience standpoint, yes, we have Disney Plus segments. Yes, we know that they perform and they offer audience scale, but we also synced with Experian and LiveRamp and the Trade Desk ID and Epsilon. So like basically any audience that you want to get, you can activate through us. If it's first party and we need to use machine learning to scale it, we can do that. And then we're also using clean rooms a different way, and that's with our measurement partners. So we're also doing direct matches with them to ensure that the results that you guys get back are representative of our inventory, are scalable. So we're getting we want to get you the best information on the back end too. So that's kind of the role that we're trying to play, knowing that you guys are inundated by data. We're just trying to make sure that you're able to activate and measure against it across our ecosystem.
And the measurement question is probably a good straight line, right? To like, okay, So many partners, so many players, so many parts of the plan. How are you setting up for measurement and for understanding success? It's relatively speaking, easy to do at a micro level, really, really hard to do at a macro level. And when you start thinking about incrementality, it gets tricky. Love to hear you talk a little bit about how you approach that.
It's not to the point when you're looking at the scale, it's not easy, no? And that's kind of what Jamie said was music to my ears, which is on the context of we definitely need flexibility because we are going to work with multiple partners, but and we need the partners to help us to manage our resources in a way that we can understand the performance across each of the different properties. No, so that's going to be a fundamental for me. While the measurement is something that we can align on the process, for me, what is more important is this notion of accountability across both us and our partners. That has to be level set and with clear rules of engagement, because as we are clear in terms of what is going to drive performance, what are the drivers of that performance, the better it's going to be for me to understand the ROI, what is working, what's not working, and build that partnership. So I go back to always the principle of we understand that what we are accountable for at the end of the day, and then clearly understand how we are going to be able to set up these measurements more from a scale perspective, because again, it could be overwhelming.
Anybody else want to chip in there?
No, I mean, for us, like, again, it's optionality. It's giving you guys the tools that you need. There's different ways that our inventory can be bought. It can be bought programmatically. It can be bought through self-service platform. So like figuring out how to support in that way. We've also started to introduce biddable attribution, which I think is pretty exciting. So if you're able to leverage a DSP, again, unified audience, you can control the frequency across the buy, and then you're getting attribution back across the publishers that you're running on. So we launched that this week with the trade desk, and we're going to continue for more and more partnerships to continue just to make it easier for you guys to get holistic data on the back end of campaigns.
Awesome. So I hear a lot about data, hear a lot about scale. I haven't heard the word creativity yet. How are you factoring the creative X factor, as it were, into everything you're doing from a media data activation standpoint? And where does that piece of the puzzle fit for you?
I mean, I can take like kind of how we're approaching it. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have the best viewer experience for consumers on our platform. So we're very thoughtful in kind of how we incorporate ads into the experience. We know from looking at attribution and measurement that high premium content delivers stronger results. And we believe in that. But I also think like different ad innovation is important. So we now have, if someone's binging a show, right, because we know the behavior, that we have the ability to serve them sequential ads. So it's an ad that builds, over the course of a program. So it's just figuring out how to kind of, it's a mix. It used to be like art and science, and I feel like it's very equal now, art and science, with the data piece, because you have the ability to see, did this spot perform? And then it's because you're looking at different things. Is it the creative that didn't work, or was it the audience segment that didn't work? And how does it all kind of work together?
Absolutely. Rafael, anything you want to add there?
I guess, Paul, go ahead, Paul, and then I can.
No, I was just going to reiterate that creative is incredibly important and impactful. And a lot of it just has to do with making sure that you're aligning what you're trying to do from an audience perspective and media and data and measurement with that creative process and the creative that you're using. We spent a lot of time in making sure that we could isolate and figure out what is working. We also want to make sure that we aren't constraining creativity. If there are places for big ideas, for things that aren't necessarily tested, that can break through and really connect with our consumer. So we are I think breaking down a lot of silos and just figuring out all the ways and the new ways of working in process and workflows that we're making sure that it's all happening together and there's transparency and integration and everyone knows how they're going to be working together so that at the end of the day, it doesn't seem disjointed and we get the most out of having the right creative with the right audience to deliver our message at the end of the day.
Got it. I couldn't agree more. I guess for me is when you look into the way how Verizon we operate is we look at media and creative as one. even on my Oppo is one, and that's I work with my peer who is the head of creative. Literally, we are looking at the same level of data and the same accountability. So it's not like the audience didn't work or they curated. It's just the package. Is it driving performance? Yes or no? So that's the level of our approach. And to Paul's point is we have to look into that by different ways of working and how we bring the teams together into having the same conversation and having the ability to look at the same data, the same information. And that's how we are seeing first that creative and media partnership working better than ever. Because I was tracking with Jamie on the context of that sequence. You want your creative to tell the narrative of the brand. And you want it to be relevant to different audience and you want the right sequence. So, and that cannot be done with just a media execution itself. It needs that collaboration. And to the point, it needs the understanding of how it is resonating with our customers and prospects. And that's the way how we are approaching it. And again, going back to the principles of machine learning and AI and being able to do it at a scale, that is why it's so important.
All right, so before we go to audience questions, I have one more topic, everybody's favorite, privacy. We have all of this data, and now we have the capacity to process it and connect it, right? And therefore, we can know a lot, see a lot, and power a lot of big data connections that maybe weren't possible a decade ago. How do we wrestle with that from a consumer privacy and respect standpoint? How are you thinking about data? Has your thinking about privacy evolved as the technology is evolving? You know, where obviously early days, but where are your heads?
Well, we're in a highly regulated industry and category, so we are all too well versed in being proactive in getting legal and compliance and want to make sure we do all that work up front. The reason why we do that is because of all the opportunities you have to use that data. So you want to make sure that you are doing all that you need to do to be set up to leverage what can be incredibly powerful and impactful. At the end of the day, we never want to miss out of an opportunity as long as we are compliant to deliver on our mission, improving health outcomes, so communicating these messages, particularly to those underserved neighborhoods. And so that work up front, while it can seem dry and boring, we really have a fantastic legal team that we do really robust compliance work ahead so that these ideas and the rest of the team can run from there. Now, there's going to be some stuff that we may have to hold off on and want to explore, but we'd rather do that and not take 4 steps back in a lot of those instances and be prepared to really run forward and leverage it in the right way. And so there's been plenty to do, which is some of the new stuff that's come out that we've gotten approved, et cetera. But that's an ongoing thing. And I think the more that you look at that as a partnership with your legal team and with you're opening up the potential to use it rather than people saying yes or no, it's really been a groundbreaking perspective and way of working.
And I guess from our end, so what we look into customers' data is the level of integrity and respect is undeniable. So we will not use that data unless it's for the good use of the customer. So it's, we are very rigid in terms of brand safety and being in compliance, very similar to Paul. From a legal perspective, and because it's just the right thing to do. When you're giving access to all this data, you also have to understand how to be used. So I really would not like to comment much there, but just more on the context of how critical and we understand what it means, and it's something that definitely we're looking to partner with our legal departments in the way how we execute.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Disney obviously is a consumer first company. We're extremely compliant, and we talked a little bit about the clean room strategy, and I think that is proof that we're making sure that we're putting privacy first.
Great, absolutely. All right, so let's pivot to some audience questions, because we have some eager audience members who say, okay, you've done this, you're pioneers, help me shortcut my learning. What are mistakes you made that I should learn from? What are things you tried that were worth trying? How do I get started? And is there a way to, avoid the pitfalls?
I would say the biggest thing is just to get started. You can't foresee the pitfall. You don't know what you're going to learn until you start getting in there. So just getting started. I think being very direct with the partners that you're working with, so if you want to work with Disney, come to us with what you want to learn, and then we can kind of help set the infrastructure to support that. But I would say the quicker you get involved, the better. It's not going to be easy, but it's time to get in.
Yeah, I'll add, it's a journey. It's better to start now than to wait for perfection. So it's always a progression and a learning process. I think one thing that for me is the importance of also of the quality or understanding of your data is at the core. And having clarity in terms of your data, how data is integrated with your partners, the definition of the basic of the taxonomy of the data. Those are basic stuff that if you don't have the clarity, this is not going to work. But I would say it's never too late. Set the right expectations, and you gotta go, because that's the way how marketing is working now, and that's not the future. That's the tomorrow.
Yeah, I would say that our fastest route has often been where we actually don't take a shortcut. That we actually try and improve our bandwidth and just our efficiency in how we handle meetings, how we email, some of this day-to-day stuff that opens up that free time so that we don't have to take a shortcut, and we do the legwork to get alignment, educate people, get everyone on board, look at opportunities, the right amount of rigor. I think when we've had instances where there were those shortcuts taken, is where we actually wound up taking steps backward, and it took us longer to get to that goal. So I think the more that you can just operate your day-to-day and empower people to have the most bandwidth and the most meaningful things is your best shortcut, because it's a lot of work no matter how you handle it. And a lot of it's going to be dependent upon your company, your industry, your consumers, and it's going to have to be form fit for what you're trying to do there.
Great. So related to that, the ad club supports a lot of kind of up and comers, new to their career. What skill sets are you looking to hire, right? Is ChatGPT going to write all our copy and we don't need English majors anymore? I mean, when you're looking at the marketplace, what are you looking for? And if you were starting out, what skills would you be trying to get?
I mean, for me, the marketplace is changing, and we've done things a certain way for a long amount of time. So I think that getting, diversity in thought, diversity in thinking is really important. So it's not hiring people that, fit the same profile that are already on your team today. It's like figuring out how to bring in like different perspectives to have more well-rounded teams.
Yeah, I will add, there's something that I always, at least for marketing, that I found extremely important, which is this notion of curiosity, being curious, and be willing to deal with change, because this industry is changing all the time. So besides the technical skills, those are kind of like must, but that ability to be curious and try new things is for me so important.
Yeah, I would say that one of the most crucial parts of our interview process is the behavioral interview, where we really look at how they solve problems, critical thinking. The world that we're in is changing so fast. And so the ability to really problem solve, understand something quickly, and using real world examples is just huge. And the ability to communicate is becoming more and more important. There are fewer and fewer jobs and roles where you're just at your desk alone all day, regardless if you're working remote or not. That ability to just collaborate, go across silos, talk to people who don't have your same skill set or background, and get them to understand is just a huge super power that to have on your team.
Bill roll for us liberal arts majors, yay! 1000%. So, what technology or partners or pieces don't you have? Like, what are you yearning for, wanting to find, or just feeling like maybe is something that hasn't quite taken shape yet that you're really excited about? Open question, but just kind of what either lights you up about, I can't wait to see where this goes, or what is like, why isn't somebody rising up to do this thing because we need it? Love to hear your thoughts. Because y'all have so much free time to think about it because you have nothing to do day to day, right?
No, but I think, I mean, the skill sets are there. You know, you talk about data science, you talk about data engineers, you talk about programmatic. I mean, you can go, but really, as I said, when I look into how you bring all these things together, that is what is difficult. And that ability to see beyond what you control today, that's especially what I look in terms of skill sets, leadership. I mean, those are fundamentals and basic stuff, but it's sometimes very hard to find. So and it's not, you know, I always asking at my data science like 20 questions, like why you don't look at this stuff. Oh, I'm looking, as I said, not only for those technical skills, is that ability to think about something else, different routes, be curious, as Walt said, critical thinking. Those for me are things that we need our marketers to adopt more and more as we continue this journey.
What about your partners? Are they bringing that? Are you seeing that with your partners?
I do. I will say I give kudos to Disney. Disney is an unbelievable progressive partner. So they are, you know, thinking the same way how we do. They understand about the importance of doing this. Just because, again, it's from an accountability perspective, we both want to be accountable. We want to win, but we also have the same type of clarity in terms of how we want to be relevant to our customers. I mean, we're extremely brands that we are leaders. So I'm seeing that happening. And I'm very pleased with how those relationships are evolving.
I have a question. Like going back, you know, I started my career in media planning, right? And like one of the fundamental goals of media planning was how do you plan reach most efficiently against an audience, right? Now it's pretty much that. Do you guys feel like you have the tools to be able to do that? Like, how do you know if you're driving reach with a partner versus frequency?
Great question. You know, no, because it's actually, I'm going back to and looking into my team to really both looking into next year and the way how we plan into exactly that. Because reach frequency, to your point, maybe is the way how we define success in the past might not be the same, and that's kind of where we are right now as we're going into the process. Because you got to think about from the customer perspective. If I hit you the same time 10 times with the same ad, it's not a good customer experience. So then thinking about the journey, the narrative, the message, the sequencing, that's what we are looking into it. And I would say we are not 100% there yet, but that's the ambition.
Yeah, I would say the experience of COVID, I think, had a very interesting effects and impact. I don't know that I've ever experienced partnerships in a better place, from as a marketer and manufacturer retailers now and retail media partners, ad tech, our agencies, even though we do a lot of things in-house, work very closely with MediaCom and BBDO and our agency partners. So I think that is in an absolutely fantastic place. But I will say, I am hearing more and more in that sort of candid problem solving. We've all gone through change. That's been the only constant for 3 or 4 years. I am hearing that frequency and reach and how you evaluate impressions in terms of that frequency context is coming up more and more, and I think will be a major trend and topic for this year.
Okay, I think we have time for one more audience question and then one quick round robin question. Question is, how do you see contextual advertising evolving? Do you think that, behavior is going to become part of target? What do you see this changing in contextual, all this data, all this knowledge? Where's that going to go? Throw it out. Anybody wants to jump in?
Stumped it. I mean,
there's no wrong answer. That's the good news.
I mean, I think it's just pairing it more with targeting data, right? So it's contextual against the right audience. That's like the 1-2 punch that should drive more outcomes.
Yeah, I'm with Jamie. It's kind of like it's all about being relevant, no? And at this point, and I think what this is going to tell us, if we get it right from the measurement perspective, is are we relevant? Yes or no? So at the end, it's more like I don't want to say the word judgment, but it's going to put us into a position that the accountability from the activities and the actions, our campaigns, all that kind of stuff is going to be at the top because the visibility is there. So that's kind of my point of view there.
Awesome. All right, last round robin question. You can all jump in here. What's your favorite technology personally that you're working with right now, experimenting, looking into? What's the hot thing on your mind right now?
I'm going to give kudos. I'm very excited about what we're going to do with Disney. I'm not going to say much. So Jamie, I give you credit.
I'm going to have to bring Rafael to every meeting.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And we never met in person yet. I would say most excited about the way that we're activating against clean rooms, because it, again, gives you the scale on the front end for targeting and then ensures the accuracy on the back end for measurement. So it's just, and also to the ability for an advertiser like Rafael to go in and pre-campaign learn and then go deeper. So for me, I think that's unlocks the most value for advertisers.
Yeah, and think about us building propensity models within that clean setup room, our ability to really understand performance, audience. That's for me what I'm excited these days.
I'd say on my end, it's professional and personal. On the professional side, the more we talk with partners like Disney, that maybe last year the shift to CTV and nonlinear TV was so fast and so significant. I think how prepared they are to leverage the best of digital and the best of what we know about the medium of that being on the couch, lean back, that big screen, that environment, but having creative frequency, all the stuff that I think has been an advantage in digital, combining those two is what I'm most excited heading into upfront state professionally. I think on the personal side, the generative AI stuff of imagery and video, just from my own curiosity and how people use prompts to create that and how you can really democratize creative, it's been blowing my mind every day, what I'm seeing people produce. So that's just, I think, personally rewarding. I think it's a fun world that my kids are going to grow up in. So I think both those two are exciting at the same time.
And I think you just came up with the next subject for a webinar for the Ad Club. So that's awesome. I want to thank you all so much for your time, your talent. We're going to turn back to Alicia, who's going to close us out. But just on behalf of everybody and on behalf of Yieldmo, the Ad Club, and everybody who's participated, thank you for sharing your time and your talents and so generously of your experience. I know it's incredibly helpful to everybody here. We'll sign off camera. So Alicia, you can take us home.
Hey, oh my gosh, you're right. We have already teed up our next sessions. We have so much content. in this subject matter to talk about. Still, questions are still coming in. This recording will be available on our site shortly. We'll be sharing it via email. We encourage you to share it with others because it was so helpful. Thanks again to Yieldmo, to all of our speakers today. And for those of you who would like to get more involved with the club, join us, Alicia, at the Advertising Club of New York. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay healthy, stay safe. Bye-bye.